I am demanding. If you are working with me, there is this trust element. I'm going to be very fair, very transparent. You won't be wondering what Tufan is thinking about me because I will tell you. And you won't like everything I tell you because I want you to improve.
I'm Francine Lacqua, and this is Leaders, the podcast that explores what drives the world's most influential people. Be sure to follow and subscribe now so you never miss an episode. This week, I'm speaking to Tufan Erginbilgiç, the chief executive of Rolls-Royce, the aerospace and defense company. Historically a jewel of British industry, when Erginbilgiç took over in 2023, it was on shaky ground. It had underperformed for over a decade and been battered by the COVID pandemic, with shares down almost 70% during his predecessor's time. Now, since taking over, Erginbilgiç has set in motion a dramatic restructuring defined by thousands of job cuts, contract renegotiations, and widespread culture change. For the company, all of that pain has paid off. His tenure was described by McKinsey as a case study in the art of corporate transformation. I wanted to know what gave him the confidence to institute such radical change, how he actually did it, and whether he sees himself as the standard bearer for British industry. Tufan, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Now, you took over Rolls-Royce in January of 2023, and quickly you made waves with a speech, right, where you talk about a burning platform that every investment we make, we destroy value. Why did you decide to be so tough?
I'm not sure I was tough, actually. That speech itself actually was 1.5 hour speech, but obviously headlines took from the first 10 minutes. You said January 23, I took the job, but actually I planned that speech starting from September 22. I commission an external benchmarking because what you want to do in that is really put the mirror up for the organization. You cannot say the things you just said without data because it will just land like you are criticizing them. Effectively, with data, I demonstrated where the company is. But in the same speech, then you continue and you talk about your vision and where you take the company.
First of all, was there a decision to give the company and the employees tough love?
Neither of them, actually. Interesting, because I don't think that way. First of all, they need to understand where the company is. Secondly, they need to understand this is going to be different. Because before that, everybody was asking me, Rolls-Royce restructured many times, why it is different? First of all, it was never this restructuring, it was transformation. But that wasn't the tough love or this. It was about tell it how it is, bring your style, you are going to be very clear, but very straightforward. You won't dance around the subject. Yeah. You cannot miss what I say, okay?
So January 2023, what do you walk into? What company do you find?
I mean, lots of strengths on the one hand, like good people. But on the other hand, all those good people have not been led well. Direction is not clear. Strategy doesn't exist. Performance management doesn't exist. And the company's balance sheet is in a terrible shape. And yes, I said we destroy value every investment we make because company's cost of capital was significantly higher than returns of the company.
You said there were good people at Rolls-Royce,
yes.
But you also laid off a lot of people, thousands of people. So was it difficult to make sure that you weren't letting go the people that you needed?
Yeah, I mean, there is always that risk, right? But you manage this process really tightly so that doesn't happen. Or if it happens, really on the edges. Why I did it, frankly, we eliminated layers in the organization. So if you actually look what we did, no operational people left. When you are doing these restructurings, people, obviously you make stuff because it's about people's lives. But I always worry about if we don't do that, probably 50,000 people's lives will be affected because company will go to bad places. So there is always that risk. But in this, actually, we had very little of that. We were able to keep sort of who we wanted to keep.
How important was it that that first town hall, people got to know you and got your style?
I mean, you need to be very authentic. And so that actually when they look at you, they say, okay, I believe it. Because remember, you are not only talking about burning platform, you are talking about vision and how we are going to get there. Vision needs to be energizing.
By talking so openly, did you ever think, oh, I'm going to, make the people before me really mad?
Yes, but remember, this was supposed to be internal town hall, right? So it wasn't press conference. And therefore, yes, there was that risk. It may leak, but upside was a lot bigger for me.
Some shareholders at the time were worried that it'd be destabilizing for staff.
Yes.
What did you tell? Did they call you?
No, but I've been talking to shareholders. Frankly, they have been deeply frustrated. One banker, he said, can I actually summarize what they said with one word? I said, go ahead. He said, frustration.
But it's also a perception because you've been almost criticized, right, by some people that are close to you or in the press by saying you are tough. Your style is quite harsh. I mean, someone even said you're a nightmare to work with. Does that hurt you?
I am demanding. If you are working with me, there is this trust element. I'm gonna be very fair, very transparent. You won't be wondering what Tufan is thinking about me because I will tell you. And you won't like everything I tell you because I want you to improve. But I will also tell you what you are doing well. Some people love it, excel in it, because that pace and intensity is for a purpose. You choose where you are, where it matters.
Now that you've seen results at Rolls-Royce,
yeah.
Have you eased off people? I mean, you talk about a kind of cadence, right? A rhythm to applying pressure.
So I don't know what eased off means because you almost move to new normal and expectations are different. Performance culture is different. I now watch the team because we always have, and currently we are dealing with another one. Team is behaving very differently. So then you don't need to push. Actually, I had a couple of conversations this morning to say, perfect, the way you are thinking is great. So in that sense, it is easing off. But actually, company moves to new normal.
The Rolls-Royce restructure, which Erginbilgiç likes to call a transformation, brought the company back from the brink. And now it's doing quite well. Since taking over, Rolls-Royce's shares have increased by more than 10 times. But how did he actually transform the company? And how did previous career experiences inform his thinking? At some point, you're basically in the running to become chief executive of BP, and you don't get it. So you have to make a decision on whether you stay or you leave.
That's correct.
And that's a very difficult decision.
Yes, I agree.
So how did you make the decision of leaving? Is it because you wanted to be CEO?
At that point, yes. Because you are already in CEO, because company had a process. They invite you into the process. So because they invite you, that means...
there's a chance.
Exactly. So therefore, yes. And given my track record, etc., I thought I should get it. But that made leaving question also easier, frankly, because once you don't get it, now you know what you want at that point. And then sort of it was almost natural that I left.
And you go into private equity.
Yes.
What did you learn in private equity that you apply for, restructure or transformation of companies?
When you go to private equity, given that investment committee is the business in a way, right? You really understand what good investment committee is and why.
Are they different in nature or how they talk?
Are a lot more open, a lot more blunt, not for you to fail, for you to succeed. What they are doing, make sure case is robust.
So it's like a stress test.
Exactly. So then, frankly, I took that to our investment committee in Rolls-Royce. And I told the team, we are not doing this for anybody to fail. Because if I actually see in the pre-read an investment proposal that will never fly, I call the person and I say, let's take it out of investment committee because I don't want them to be embarrassed.
How did you transform Rolls-Royce? It was very clear. You talk about being blunt. Like, quickly, can you say what those steps were?
Francine, you are using blunt. I'm not sure I'm authentic.
Authentic.
I think put the mirror up. But I think I never had
but
it.
Blunt is not a bad word. I mean, maybe we've made it a
Yes.
bad word, right? But blunt means you know what you get instead of dancing around.
Yeah, that's true. I never actually thought about time frame in transformations, but I said to people in the first 2-3 years, we need to make good progress. And normally you do. But I think 4 pillars were important, really. This first pillar is all about people. It is the leadership, vision, engagement. And second pillar is very granular strategy. And everybody knows in the company their role in delivering strategy. If you don't have granular strategy, only 10 people know it. And then 10 people are surprisingly surprised that that strategy is not delivered. I don't have a role. How am I going to contribute? And then everybody has a role. Because in big organizations, you come and go. Nobody tells you you matter. Somebody tells you you matter in Rolls-Royce's transformation, and this is your role if you deliver this. It's very energizing.
But you also famously said, I don't do strategy in a dark room with consultants.
I personally attended 25-30 workshops when we were developing strategy. So 500 plus people joined. When you are done, whole organization is aligned because they were in the room when you were making the decision. I go in those workshops. I say 2 things. There's no hierarchy in the room. Second thing, I say, this is going to be chaotic. Why chaotic? Because many strategy conversations don't open up. It closes. It becomes like plan conversations. You need to open it up so that all the out of blue ideas come into the room. Even if you don't do them, they are in the room.
Tufan, one of the other things when you were transforming, right, what was key was also renegotiating some of the contracts. Right?
Yes.
How did you do that?
I needed to negotiate them because company was bleeding. One thing, I didn't appreciate the cultural impact of that because I went and did that and everybody thought that was absolute impossible thing to do. Then people said, I'm going to do impossible things as well.
But Tufan, what happened? Do you call the phone and say, look,
No.
we had a contract, but actually
let me go.
we need to do it
most
differently?
of the meetings, different people, but play out in the same. So unfortunately, that was the time I needed to go into action quickly. So there was no relationship building, frankly, because most of the time this was my first meeting with the person. And numbers are so big that CEO to CEO conversation required, right? So normally how it happened, first half an hour, they complain, new CEO, they complain about all the operational problems we cause. Then I'm thinking, wow, how am I gonna now in this open up that actually we are not happy with commercials? But it gave me good opportunity to say, yeah, I understand all your concerns, but weak Rolls-Royce can only do that. Strong Rolls-Royce actually can be a lot better partner. And then I link that to saying effectively our contract doesn't work. In the first meeting, all you want to achieve, for them to agree to bring the teams together, to rebalance the contract and find win-win solutions. That's all. If you are planning to achieve more than that, you are going to be disappointed.
British industry has been described as being in constant decline, with factors like rising energy costs posing challenges to making money. Rolls-Royce's turnaround has been seen as a positive sign for the wider industry. So is there anything that Rolls-Royce's peers can learn from its strategy? Tufan, you brought Rolls-Royce, right, a British heritage brand, back from the brink. I mean, do you feel sometimes like you're carrying the weight of British industry because you've made it a success?
I mean, yes, sometimes. Because I think there's this discussions whether companies should move to the US market. I'm sure, Francine, you asked those questions. So actually demonstrating that you can be in this market. And frankly, after a point, it is never about you. You don't want to fail all the stakeholders, employees, investors, even government. Once you pass a stage, right? Okay, you have a success. Now, make sure that is sustainable success and actually you can build on it.
What can other British companies learn from Rolls-Royce?
I mean, a lot. But business model level, are they actually set up to win? If not, fix the business model. And you do that, then of course you need to energize your employees. It's not about you. It is about 50,000 people. I am non-compromising for that. You may say blunt or whatever, but non-compromising. Mediocrity at that level kills the organizations, but also good people, then you need to develop them and have a great career in this.
How do you manage good people? What do they want?
Effectively, you want people in your organization who are highly marketable, but they want to stay with you, right?
Right.
So that's what you want.
That's a secret sauce.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what you want, right? That is almost 360 performance management in my mind. And 360 performance management always, if you want to close the circle, it finishes with reward and recognition. And then grow the company, because that creates all sorts of career opportunities. Shrinking companies, you have less opportunities. Grow the company, that actually feeds itself.
Right. I mean, every time I see you, we speak about small nuclear reactors.
Yes.
Because it's not a 360 view. It's a very granular, it's almost problem solving. It's engineering.
I always go to big picture before I come to small picture. Europe cannot do without it. World needs it for net zero. Frankly, Europe needs it for supply security, full stop. Because even before geopolitics, Europe needed that. After some geopolitical events, frankly, Europe needs it more than that. So therefore, SMRs make sense at big picture because they are less risky, because smaller plants and manufacturing activity. Nuclear industry has a bad sort of experience with projects. They take longer, much more expensive. SMR, 85% manufacturing process. You learn. You learn, and it is modular, it is standard, rather than every nuclear project, bespoke EPC project in a way, right?
Anything could happen in the world of politics, as we've seen.
Yes.
Right? How do you deal with politics, with events outside your events? And even here, you could see a change in government with reform coming into power.
Yeah. I have a principle in business. I always tell people, once you get into trouble, it is too late. So you need to prepare the company before you get into trouble. So what does that mean? Like, we are actually living with it as we speak, and last year we lived with tariff. But first of all, make the company very resilient. That was our drive. We did that. So external shocks, we actually deal with it a lot better. Mindset is more important than anything else. You need to have the mindset and the response capability in the company. You need to develop that before you are in trouble, because it takes some time, right? And then you need to be agile using that capability. And then last thing you are going to do, you are going to be action-oriented, not explanation-oriented.
But if you don't know what the trouble is, are you scenario planning for all the things that could change?
It's not about actually predicting the world. It is about how your company now thinks about dealing with external shocks, right? So that is the capability, the processes, the mindset. Like, we are now responding to current shocks. I can assure you, we couldn't do half of what we are doing 3 years ago. Probably 10%. Probably when I said something, people would look at me with blank eyes. What is he talking about? Today, I don't need to say a lot. I need to give the context, and people are in action.
Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Yes.
There are always reports that someone could be retiring, including you. If you were to retire, where would your dream retirement destination be?
I'm not sure I want one destination. I would like to have multiple places. One probably is a sort of a little bit sunny place. I love London. I will retire in London, definitely, but with some summer sort of sunny place in the backup.
But no plans to retire?
Not anytime soon.
You said you were a university lecturer. If you were to go back, what subject would you like to teach?
Probably I would teach more leadership-related stuff right now. I was teaching at that time micro and macroeconomics, but given my career, I think I would do something different.
We've heard you're a keen reader. So is there one book you've returned to multiple times?
So I read history books. Why history books? Because that tells a lot about human behavior to me. Because yes, times change. I'm not sure human behavior change a lot.
Tufan, thank you so much.
Thank you.